Welcome to the Health Trip Podcast. My name is Jill Foose. I'm a functional medicine and integrative nutrition health coach. I created this podcast to bring you along as we travel down intriguing, science-packed roads, debunking old medical paradigms and perusing new innovative therapies and modalities with the finest functional medicine doctors, practitioners, and like-minded biohackers while living our best life. Enjoy the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Health Trip Podcast. Have any of your girlfriends ever asked you, how's your vagina? Well, I'm asking today, do you feel estranged from your vagina? Do you like the way your vagina looks? Do you like the way your vagina smells? Does your vagina bring you pain or pleasure? And do you wish your vagina could age backward? Not such a crazy question, by the way. If you're like me and going through menopause, you may have taken notice of some vaginal changes for the worse. As we move through menopause, our hormone levels drop. Estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone are the three dominant sex hormones that matter most when it comes to having hot, pleasurable, juicy sex. Some women cruise through menopause without a hitch, but most women experience adverse physical, emotional, and psychological issues such as loss of self-lubrication, thinning vaginal walls, making for painful intercourse, zero to low libido, loss of sexual desire, loss of sexual arousal, fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, depression, night sweats, weight gain, and more. Menopause can literally put the brakes on your sex life. I don't know about you, but I will try pretty much anything to biohack my sex life, my vagina, and my longevity. My guest today is someone that I've been following for a few years now. She is all about having hot sex and never using age as an excuse to not have the best sex of your life, even during and after menopause. We're going to talk about all things related to menopausal sex, including what is actually happening to your vagina during menopause, different regenerative therapies that you may want to include, the best sex toys to use, and myths around sex as we age well into our older years. Susan Bratton, intimacy expert to millions, is a champion and advocate for all those who desire intimacy and passion their whole life long. She is the co-founder and CEO of two corporations, Personal Life Media, which is a publisher of heart-connected lovemaking techniques and bedroom communication skills, and the 20 LLC, a manufacturer of organic and botanical supplements that enhance sexual vitality. Susan is a best-selling author and publisher of 34 books and programs, including Sexual Soulmates, Relationship Magic, Revive Her Drive, Ravish Him, Steamy Sex Ed, The Passion Patch, Hormone Balancing, and Hot to Trot. Susan has been featured in the New York Times and on CNBC and the Today Show, as well as frequent appearances on ABC, CBS, the CW, Fox, and NBC. A medical disclaimer before we start. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice or for making any lifestyle changes to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others. Consult with your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any of my guests on my podcast. So sit back, have an open mind, and let's join in with Susan. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the Health Trip Podcast. I am so excited to have you on.
Jill, you are just such a doll. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy you're so gung-ho on the Susan Bratton sexy time plan.
Oh, I am a huge fan. And you know where
so
I
nice.
do my best listening of your podcasts and information is when my boyfriend and I are taking long road trips.
Oh yes, that's
because we can
great.
listen and then have conversations about it.
Great. I love that. So what's the most interesting conversation that has been one of the catalysts? Where did you end up being very surprised in your conversation with your boyfriend?
Talking about foreplay, actually. And as
Great.
I've aged, the foreplay is so much more important now, and it's different. And so just expressing through learning different techniques from you and expressing that to him, it's been a total game changer. And I have 5 grown kids, right? They're 19 to 28. And I am really hoping they are not going to listen to this episode because they're going to be like, Mom, really? Come on. Yeah.
Well, I actually think it's the opposite of that. I have a 25-year-old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and I are very demonstrative. We talk about sexuality. Obviously, we're in the business of teaching people passionate lovemaking techniques. And our daughter has been so supportive of us we've normalized having conversations about sex. As a matter of fact, she has a new boyfriend and she's on WhatsApp with him, WhatsApp video with him 24/7. She just visited for a couple weeks. And I said, so how's your sex with your new guy? And she said, the best I've ever had so far. It's kind of what I've always been hoping to have and what I knew was out there because of you. And he's just a really loving, kind, experimental, fun guy. And he wants to try a lot of new things with me. And I'm really happy with him and I can't wait to see him. And I said, that's so good.
Yeah.
And I also am participating in my girlfriend's ecstatic birth. She wants to have an ecstatic birth. She's a sexual pleasure coach and a good friend of mine for over 2 decades. And at 44, she's having her first child through an egg donor that she's carrying to term with her husband's sperm. And we have been doing yoni massage for the last few months together as her uterus ripens. And last night I was massaging her cervix with evening primrose oil, which according to, she's at 45 weeks and the baby, it's time for the baby to get going. And which is normal in a home birth. That's a very normal gestation period when you don't go to a hospital and get induced. And my daughter was here and she would go pick my girlfriend up and bring her over for her yoni massages. And it was perfectly reasonable for my daughter to do that. And I just feel so blessed that I think what I hear more often is people who are complaining to me that their parents never talked to them about sex. They weren't demonstrative. They didn't showcase any sensitivity around their sexuality. And that's actually way more damaging than talking to your kids about your own sexuality and walking the talk of, I am a sex positive person in love making and my sexuality is important to me and all those kinds of things. So don't underestimate the power of your influence on your children's sex positivism, because it really, initially they'll bristle and then they'll soften.
Well, let me clarify. I have 4 boys and 1 girl. My daughter, we talk about all of it, right?
Oh,
all
great.
of it,
Yeah.
right? And the boys talk to me about a lot of it too. I kind of wish they didn't talk about all of it, but oh yeah, everything is on the table.
Excellent.
Everything. Yeah. So let me clarify that. Good. I've got a great question for you though.
Okay.
Because I mostly work with women of the age of menopause.
Yes.
Can women have the best sex of their lives during and after menopause?
For sure. At 61 years old, I am having the best sex of my life right now. And my good sex life didn't start till I was 42. So there's a couple of things. Number one, sex is a learned skill. Sex is actually a combination of techniques, communication skills, and sexual health. And when you have those 3 things working for you, when you're doing regenerative treatments to reverse the atrophy of aging, so your genitals are in good working order, you've got good lubrication. I have so much lubrication right now that my partner is like, my God, you're wetter than you've ever been. And I'm like, I know, it's fantastic, because I just went through a FemiWave series of treatments. I've been using my VFit, the vagina device that you and I have just talked about before the show. And I've had a number of O shots, the PRP to the clitoral structure. And I'll tell you something, I'm wetter than I was in my 20s. And I love it, because even though all sexperts will tell you that your arousal and how turned on you are is not correlated to how wet you are, there's separate mechanisms in your body. When you're wet, it's really nice and it makes you feel super turned on. So what's good is that in menopause, number one, you don't have to worry about getting pregnant anymore. Number two, you've got age on your side, because you have more time to learn skills, and you start to become, you go through these different times in your life. In your 20s, everything is new and you don't know what you're doing and it's all fun. In your 30s, you're busy if you have kids, raising them and working on your career and things like that. In your 40s, you begin to get a little hint, a little whiff of your mortality. And you're like, oh shit, I'm not getting the sex I want. I'm going to work even harder to get it. And so many women go through their best sexual awakening in their 40s and 50s. And by the time you get to your 60s, You've learned some things. You're less upset about body image issues. You're kind of like, well, it's going to be what it's going to be. And I'm going to love myself no matter what. You stop self-flagellating over your, I should be perfect things and just let that go. And you just have more confidence generally because after menopause, you've got a higher testosterone to estrogen ratio typically. So you tend to want more sex and you're just more confident in yourself. And so all of those things kind of come together in a confluence that you can have, if you want it, this massive sexual expansion in your cusp of menopause and through menopause.
Yeah. So you mentioned the testosterone being higher after menopause, but
Yeah.
in my experience and the women I work with,
Yeah.
as we go through menopause, our hormone levels are dropping, which greatly affects our libido and the ability to produce all this self-lubrication. And so let's just circle back a little bit
Let's
on,
talk about that.
For most women, going through menopause has a lot of adverse physical, emotional, and psychological reactions. And so you're not feeling great about yourself. You're not feeling so sexy and you're not really turned on.
Well, there's two things. One is that I am such a proponent of bioidentical hormone replacement. I love my testosterone. As a matter of fact, we're recording here early in the morning, and I've just put my testosterone on my clitoris and labial structures. I've just put my estrogen cream inside my vagina. I've just taken a little progesterone. I didn't notice it helped me sleep at night, particularly. I'm a great sleeper, so I just take it all at one time when I'm taking the progesterone. And gosh, that just solves that problem for me. That solved that problem. But the thing that women don't recognize, which I'm sure you're clued into, is the understanding that sexuality and sexual pleasure and lubrication, especially lubrication, the thickness of your vaginal mucosa is tied to estrogen, but your lubrication is actually tied to how much blood flow you can get to your pelvic bowl, which is tied to your nitric oxide production. And by the time you're 50, you've got half the nitric oxide production you did when you were 20. So women are often thinking it's my hormones, when in fact, it's actually loss of nitric oxide production that's keeping the blood plasma from seeping through the vaginal mucosal lining and wetting the vagina, which is a muscle, not a gland. It's not self-wetting. You need the blood flow. So that kind of physiologic piece of things is one side of the coin of diminished libido. But the second side of the coin, and I often think even a more powerful side, because you can add lubricants and things like that and do a lot of yoni massage and warm up to get things moving, etc. It's that we women have been having what I call patriarchal sex our whole lives instead of matriarchal sex. And you mentioned something before the start of the show when I asked you what it was that you liked best about my teaching, because I always love to know what people are getting out of my work, because it's so vast. I cover so much ground. And you were talking about how the importance of foreplay as you age has become really a paramount piece of your sexual approach to having pleasurable sex. And patriarchal sex is what I call grab a boob and stick it in. And it's rushed because they're horny every day. They've got more testosterone than we do. They masturbate daily. Typically, if they're healthy, they've got morning wood. They're, our male-bodied partners are ready to go. We're on a 28-day cycle. Even after menopause, we still cycle with the moon, and we have 20 to 30 minutes it takes us to get full erectile function in our vulva, because we have nooks and crannies of our erectile tissue rather than one straight shot like a penis does. So we have slower hemodynamics, especially if we don't have enough nitric oxide. So it takes us longer, and we've been rushed for sex our whole life. And so many women, Jill, they don't have orgasms from intercourse. So they've been having intercourse with their partner without having orgasms from it. And why would they want to keep going? It's been a grand disappointment. And I'll tell you that I talk to even a lot of female doctors who say to me, I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm 60, and I've never had an orgasm from intercourse. And recently I was talking to a female doctor friend who I'd met her at an event, and she confided in me. I've never had orgasms from intercourse, but I know you say that it's a learned skill, but I have tried everything and I just can't do it. And I said, okay, let's dive into this. And I kind of went through the whole thing with her. And what I realized was that it was a limiting belief of hers. She believed she could not have
Mm,
orgasms from intercourse. And that was really her issue, was that she had justified that, hey, it was all going to be okay. Everything was fine. She enjoyed the closeness. And I was like, screw the closeness, have an orgasm, girl. You can do it. I want you to get back in there and try
yeah.
again, because it's your limiting belief now that I've identified as holding you back. You
Mm,
came up with the belief that you couldn't, and now you can't. And I want you to try again. I'm holding space for you, for
mm-hmm.
your success in this, because it's literally about getting enough blood flow and enough foreplay and enough safety and enough connection for you, and the right intercourse techniques, which I have been writing a lot about intercourse techniques, because men think about our vaginas like an inside out penis. They're just
Mm,
like it's a tunnel or something. And it's not, it's a little pocket. And
right.
when I start to describe the anatomy of the female physiology to partners, men and women, people across the gender spectrum of penis owners and vulva owners, and they're like, oh, wow, I never thought about doing that during intercourse. Oh, I never thought about that during intercourse. Oh, I didn't realize that's how it works. And once you get a couple of good techniques, you get a rethinking of the timing. You learn that women need encouragement and they need
Yep.
support and security and the right environment. Men, honestly, they can have sex anywhere, anytime, at the drop of a pants, at the drop of their pants, generally, if they're healthy.
Right.
But for
Right.
women, we need more. We're not living in men's bodies. So we've been having men's bodies type of sex, and that's
Mm,
easy to let go. So between the foreplay techniques and the intercourse techniques, I can get any woman to do what I call crossing the gasm chasm, closing the orgasm gap that Dr. Lori Mintz so beautifully talked about in her TED Talk, which is how easy it is for
mhm.
men and how hard it is for women to have orgasms. And so I think in menopause, when women are like, ugh, it hurts, I don't have any lubrication, and it hasn't been that great, those things are all coming together at once. And that's really, I think, what the biggest issue is.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about some of those regenerative therapies
Great.
in a few minutes because I'm all for them.
Me too.
When in my opening before you and I jumped on together, I said I'm all about doing whatever you have to do to make sure that you age with a great hot sex life because it's fun,
Yeah.
right? If it's not fun, what's the point? So I think it's really important that you talked about balancing out the sex hormones, getting the blood flow right.
Yeah.
And you've often talked about the gut microbiome and the
Oh, yeah.
vaginal microbiome as well. So let's just touch on that for a couple minutes too, because I don't think women really see the connection between what they eat and how that translates to a healthy, hot sex life.
Okay, good. Let's do that. I was thinking too, do you ever remember a show called The Newlywed Game?
Yes.
So was it Bob Barker?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob Barker.
Yeah.
They used to talk about sex on The Newlywed Game, and they would call it making whoopee.
Right.
Do you remember that? Making whoopee.
Yes. Yes.
And I wanted to give your listeners the link to go find my intercourse techniques because they're free. And I've written a
Great.
series of articles called Making Whoopee 3.0. And I do the 3.0 for guys because guys think they already know what they're doing and they
Right.
don't. But testosterone makes them overly sure of themselves. So they think they're a
Mhm.
9 or a 10 and they're a 6 or a 5.
Right.
And so I call it 3.0, like, oh yeah, you've already got all the 1.0 and the 2.0. This is the
Mhm.
3.0 stuff that you might
Right.
not know, just to appeal to men because
Uh-huh.
they're just dudes. You got to, I love them
Right.
all, and you got to hit them where they are. So make it, excuse me, Making Whoopee 3.0 is at personallifemedia.com. That's my main website where I've written thousands, literally thousands of articles, Jill. And if you go in the search box and you type in Whoopee, WHOOPEE, I should really rename the whole thing. It was a little colloquial. You can find all these intercourse techniques that you can teach your partner to do if they're male-bodied, and things you can do, like crouching tiger, squatting lion, glissando, the heart tongue method. I've got all these different fun things which will really help you cross that gasm chasm. And then the other piece I want to just clean up on our first part of the conversation is that in addition to publishing passionate lovemaking techniques, I have a sexual vitality supplement company, and I make 2 supplements. I make the 2 supplements for sexual vitality. One of them is called Flow, and I want to send you some. And it is a nitric oxide booster made from organic fruits and vegetables, not from corn liquor from a pesticide-laden Chinese field, put in a vat and turned into citrulline. So I'll send you some bottles of Flow, and I have a special link for your listeners. It's Buy Flow Now, BUYFLOWNOW. And that's my special podcast discount link for women. And when women start taking nitric oxide and they top up their nitric oxide, all of a sudden they're like 10 days in and I'm wetter than I've ever been. Wow, this is fantastic. I'm feeling more orgasmic pleasure again. Once that blood flow starts getting back into the pelvic bowl, you really experience great. It helps you cross that gasm chasm. It helps you have much better sex and much better orgasms. So I wanted to clean that up. And then as far as the gut microbiome and the vaginal microbiome, yeah, it is very much that your entire sexual function, both your neurotransmitters as well as your hormones, are all tied to gut function. And there is, I really feel like in today's age that we have to be eternally vigilant around remediating our gut biomes, because we have such an onslaught of endocrine disruptors from pollution and toxins, as well as just not getting the amount of nutrients in our foods that we used to, even when we're making organics. As a matter of fact, Dr. Nathan Bryan, who is really the world's thought leader in nitric oxide, he did a test of organic vegetables and non-organic vegetables and measured their nitric oxide, basically the nitrates in the nitrites in the vegetables. Leafy green vegetables and beetroots are what turn into nitric oxide in your body. And he said that whether it was organic or not, it didn't matter. There would be different amounts of nitrites in different vegetables from different parts of the country. You could look at romaine from California and romaine from, you know, the East Coast, and it would be an entirely different profile, but that there just aren't the same amount of nutrients in them. And that's why he started developing nitric oxide supplementation and recommending it. So I just think it's really interesting that even if we don't use antibacterial mouthwash and we don't take acid blockers and we don't use fluoride toothpaste and we eat our leafy green vegetables, we still have, we're missing the things we need in our food supply to make the stuff we need to make, which is why having a functional approach to supplementation is kind of a thing you have to do these days. Absolutely.
It all matters. This is a multi-layered approach to overall health and great sex. It all matters.
Yeah. And I like to make my own yogurt in the morning. I have a smoothie for breakfast every morning that I put so much collagen in there and so many green powders and vitamin C's. And I'm taking that urolithin A, the MitoPure from Timeline. I'm loving their whey powder right now. Which helps with mitophagy, which helps you build muscle, because I'm very focused in my 60s on being like, I'll never be muscly. I'm a fairly, if I'm not fat, I'm lithe, I'm tall and thin, so I don't build big muscle, but I'm strong and I'm focused on that because I really feel like the gut and the muscle are going to keep me solid and having a great life till I'm 100.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I work with women and they show up for a session with me and tell me they just want to age naturally, I think to myself, no such thing anymore. If you want a vibrant, healthy life, it's all encompassing. It's everything. It's making sure you get your sleep. It's managing your stress. It's taking supplements based on your micronutrient deficiencies. It's how your mindset is working. It's all the things.
It is.
So I want to pivot into a different direction. I heard on one of the podcasts with you that you there is a difference between libido, desire, and arousal. And I
Yeah.
thought this was really interesting because I didn't know that they were very different. And so I wanted you to just break those down for the listeners because I thought it was fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of came to that epiphany when, I have to make a lot of distinctions when I speak about our
Mm-hmm.
sexuality. And so the more distinctions I can make, the better frameworks people have for thinking about their sexuality. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the things I want women to do is feel like, here's what happens with women. When women struggle sexually, from being in this patriarchal, not getting enough of the things we need, the way our body works, kind of sexuality in the world today, porn induced, all the stupid crap we see in television. I can't even watch the movies. My husband's like, oh, she's not going to like this. Because it's just so, there's never any foreplay. There's never any
Right.
fondling. There's never any petting or stroking or kissing or adoration or words of appreciation or foot rubs or any of the stuff I need to get turned on.
Right.
If my feet hurt.
Except if you watch porn from the 70s, right? That was real porn. I can't watch this stuff that's going on now. It's to me, it's like watching Barbie and Ken.
It's degrading to women.
Yeah.
Time magazine did a study that said that 96% of over 300 samples of pornography showed acts degrading to women. And this is what our young
Hmm.
men are being
Yeah.
raised on, and our young women now too. They think this is what sex is, which is a
Yeah.
bummer. But going back to libido, desire, and arousal, this distinction is that I always think about it kind of like the Olympic goal, the Olympic logo with the three intersecting circles. That's called a Venn
Mm-hmm.
diagram,
Mm-hmm.
statistics. And the three interlocking circles, you're in the middle, and you've got a libido, you've got your desire, and you've got arousal. And libido is the body-based piece of it. It's like the Mike Myers, am I horny, baby? It's like, is your body horny? Do you want sex? Are you like, I'm kind of horny? If you're not feeling that, that's directly attributed to your gut microbiome,
Mm.
right? It's that and any traumas that you've had, right? Any emotional traumas that you've had, which are also enteric, they're in your body too. So libido is the other side of the same coin as your overall health. I can track the level of my health by how turned on and how much sex I want. When I want a lot of sex, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling good. This is awesome. And when I don't feel well, I'm like, oh, I don't feel like having sex because I just don't feel well right now. So I give myself a break and I work on my recovery and I take care of myself and I get my sleep and then I feel better. So that's libido. Desire is the emotional piece of it. It's how do I feel about myself?
Mm-hmm.
Am I beating myself up? Am I saying, oh, you fat bitch, you're so ugly? Or am I
Mm-hmm.
saying, hey, you're perfect just the way you are. Your body's an amazing thing. You're a beautiful woman. You look great. Everybody loves you. You're good. And how do I feel about my partner? Am I pissed off at them? They're not doing the things, are they
Mm-hmm.
letting me
Mm-hmm.
down? Are they not meeting my relationship values? What's going on there out of the bedroom, because it all comes into the bedroom. And so
Absolutely.
that's desire. And sex is a mind game, Jill. It's even just the notion of keeping yourself out of your head and getting into your body, which our male partners are very good at doing that for us. If they're good in bed, they're very good at helping us just surrender to our pleasure, let everything go, because our estrogen monkey minds want to think about 3,000 things at once, where
Oh yeah.
our dudes are like single focus, straight
Mm-hmm.
ahead. They're just,
Mm-hmm.
sex is so much easier for them than it is for us in many ways. And they just need to understand how to get us into our bodies and help us relax. So that whole mindfulness practice of focusing on sensation and pushing away thought and staying in pleasure is a very important part of desire. And it's a learned skill, getting control over that monkey estrogen mind of ours in the bedroom. And then arousal is this whole notion that I touched upon earlier, where guys have fast hemodynamics, they're horny, they've got
Mm-hmm.
testosterone, they're ready to go. And we have a much slower climb to our arousal. But once we get up there, once we climb that stair step up, we can really go and go and go. I mean, our bodies, both male and female, have the ability to have 20 different kinds of orgasms. So if
Mm.
we're having one, we can start doing orgasmic cross training and add more types of orgasms in, being able to come from different types of stimulation. There's 3 categories of orgasm. There's the locations you touch. Can I have nipple-gasms? Can I have orgasms from making out with my lover? Can I have orgasms from clitoral stimulation, G-spot stimulation, vaginal orgasms, cervical orgasms? I mean, there's all these different types of orgasms. Then there's techniques, female ejaculation, expanded orgasm, erotic hypnosis. These are avenues, paths, body-based, technique-based paths to orgasmic ecstasy. A lot of the tantric work and things like that. And then there's objects of desire. Objects of desire are things like sex toys. We have so many. I'd like to teach women the 5 sex toys that must be in your pleasure chest so that you can orgasmically cross-train in your self-pleasuring and then bring these toys into your partnered play to expand your orgasmic pleasure during partnered play. And that whole piece of arousal is very important for us. It's understanding it takes us time and allowing ourselves and teaching our partners how to give us the stimulation and the adoration and the security that we need to get up there so we can start to have so many great orgasms that we basically have orgasm brain. I love to have orgasm brain, where it takes me sometimes a half an hour to an hour to just kind of come back to earth and gather myself, gather my wits to get back on with my life. I can remember, it's funny, I just got a phone call from one of my best mentors. I've been very lucky to have some incredible mentors in the sexuality space, like the orgasmic cross-training concept, where I added it in using vibrators, was Sherry Winston, who wrote Women's Anatomy of Arousal. And yesterday I got a call from Dr. Patty Taylor, who wrote our expanded orgasm program that teaches you how to have an expanded orgasm practice with your partner, which is, to me, one of the cornerstones of keeping your libido and desire going your whole life long as you age. We could talk about that in parking lot if you want to, or I could come back on, it doesn't matter, but you can go to expandherorgasmtonight.com to learn more about that. There's some downloads, expandherorgasmtonight.com, that teaches that practice. And Patty called me yesterday, and I remember that, God, nearly 20 years ago, I called her and I was like, Dr. Patty, I'm afraid I'm going to come too much and I'll never be able to come back from it. And she said, it's okay, Suze, let go and just go right there with it. I said, I feel like I'm out in this dark outer space place of not knowing what's coming next. And I'm standing on a ledge and I'm about to step off into space. And I don't know what's going to happen to me. Will I be able to recover from coming this much?
Wow, not a bad problem to have.
And how great that I had a mentor I could call about it, right?
Right, exactly.
She literally did her PhD in the expansion of female orgasm. And so since that time I have called, she said, go out, you'll come back. It may take you an hour or two to recover, but you'll come back. And because I was like, I'm not going to be able to work if I come this much. And I'm an ambitious woman. I have to write thousands of sex techniques over the next couple decades.
Right.
And so she said, go off and let yourself go out there. And since that day, I've called myself an orgasmonaut. I like to go to the far reaches of outer space and come back with the map to the territory so that I can show you what the steps are to what is this thing and how do you have it? Because that's all sex is. Sex is, we have this massive capacity. How do I do it? And that's what I love, is to just be like, here's how you do it. That's what I love to do.
So speaking of sex toys, can women become too dependent on them? You know, there's a lot of women who are not in relationships and who rely on self-pleasure. Even women who are in relationships should also practice self-pleasure. It's really important. But can we become too dependent?
No, not at all. It's just the opposite. I mean, there is a moment where if you're driving your clitoral nerve endings, you've got 10,000 endings in the tip of your clitoris, but you've got tons of nerve endings, your whole clitoral body, which, by the way, if I took it out of your body and put it in your hand, it would cover the palm of your hand. Your clitoris is an organ the
Right.
size of the palm of your hand, which women aren't necessarily thinking about. They're thinking it's this little tip, the glands of the
Right.
clitoral body. And if you stimulate it too much, you will need to rest and let your nervous system reset. But it doesn't make it harder for you to have orgasms with a partner. It actually makes it easier, which is why I like the 5 vibrators of orgasmic cross training, because when you activate all of the tissue of the vulva, then you are able to have stimulation. Look, our guys, as much as they like to touch our clitoris and touch our vulva, sometimes they're in the channel between the 2 lips, and sometimes they're in the middle. And sometimes, I mean, I've been giving ecstatic birth massages to my girlfriend, helping her, feel the pleasure of her pregnancy. And I'm hit or miss on where my fingers are. Sometimes I'm working on all of the places and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it all feels good, when you're used to activating it all feels good, and you can touch anywhere. You can rub your fingers down the very edge of my inner labia and I'll have an orgasm. You could stroke like windshield wipers across the hood, right over the top of the hood where the shaft is under there on my vulva, and I'll have an orgasm. You can stroke the mons. You can knead my outer labia between your fingers and I'll have an orgasm. And that's simply just that I've activated the tissue both through manual pleasuring as well as using a lot of variety of toys. So I'd feel remiss if I didn't quickly trip through the 5.
Yeah,
Would
let's
you like
do
me
it.
to do that? Because everybody's going to be like, what were
100%.
the 5?
Yeah, we are all sitting on the edge of our seats. Let's do it.
Here's the 5.
Okay.
First one is an air stimulator.
Wait,
That
let me interrupt you by saying, for the listeners, if you go over to the YouTube channel and watch this version and not just the audio, you're going to see what Susan is showing us as well. Okay, continue.
perfect. Oh, I'm glad I did my hair today. This is the Womanizer, and they own the patent on air stimulation. And this is basically a clitoral sucker. It is wonderful. They also have one called the Duo, which has a G-spot stimulator. The intensity of orgasm that you get from this is unbelievable, Jill. If you don't have one of these, this is your neck. Now that you've gotten your vagina device, the VFit, you're going to have to get one of these.
Okay.
Number 2 is, I also recommend for cross training, what's essentially a rabbit, which is, and these are from Fun Factory, and there's 2 sizes. There's the Miss Bi and the Lady Bi. It depends on the size of your vaginal pocket. Some women have a small vaginal pocket and some women have a giant one. That would be me. I'm a big girl and I got a giant vagina. So I like the Lady Bi. It's a vibrator inside the vagina and a vibrator outside on the clitoral structures outside. And this stimulates 2 areas simultaneously, which activates the yoni being the vulva, tantric word for the vulva. The next.
Wait, let me ask you something, Susan.
Sure,
how does that one differ from like a dildo?
Yeah. So another one that I like is more of just a general penis shape.
Got it.
So a penis shaped vibrator. And in this particular case, this one is from Fun Factory, and this is called a thruster or pulsator, and it uses a magnet that sends the thing basically in and out of your vagina a little bit. It's kind of more like an intercoursey type of an experience. And it has a little pop on it. This is called the Tiger. This has a little popped knob on it to stimulate the G-spot at the entrance to your vagina. And you can actually put this in your vagina and use it hands-free if you wanted to self-pleasure your breasts, or you wanted to put a vibrator on your clitoral structure externally. And this is really good for women who are like, I think my vagina fused shut. I haven't had sex in so long. I'm starting to date and I'm afraid I won't be able to have intercourse. If it hurts, then we want to talk about the vagina device that we'll get to in a minute, but that's not a sex toy. It's an actual FDA class 2 medical device for vaginal rejuvenation. But if you're good to go to have something inside you, this helps you cross that chasm from intercourse too. The thruster does, because you're starting to come from being penetrated and from movement in your vagina. So that's number 3. Number 4 is something also from Fun Factory. They're a brand that I really like.
They have a great company.
They're
Yeah.
a great company, and the quality of their products, they're not going to be full of toxins. They're going to have they make their own silicone. This is called the Volta, and it's kind of like a motorboat for your clitoris. And for the women who love the womanizer and would never give it up, there's another whole camp of people who love the Volta and they would never give it up. It's like a liquor. And so that's also nice. But those two are really direct clitoral stimulation, where the Lady Bi, Miss Bi combo and the Tiger, the pulsator, these are more internal. They're awakening the internal area of your vulva, which is also very important. And then, of course, there's G-spot. And this particular one is a G-spot wand that is a pulsator with a G-spot pad. You could use the Womanizer Duo, you could use this there, but just having something that focuses on the urethral sponge. Your vagina, your vulva has 3 erectile tissue systems. Your male-bodied partner has 3 straight erectile tissue chambers in his penis. You have 3 erectile tissue systems in your vulva. You've got your clitoral body, the structure of your clitoral body, which has a head, a shaft, arms, and legs. And then you have your urethral sponge, which people call a G-spot. It's not a spot, it's a tube that goes up inside your vagina from inside the vestibule, where you open your little labia. And when you open the doors, if you will, that's the vestibule. When you go on the face of it, there's some G-spot there. And when you go inside your vagina on the roof, there's G-spot there. So you want to activate that because that's your second erectile tissue body. You want to get the blood flow to that. And then there's a third erectile tissue body between the bottom, the floor of your vagina and your rectum that is also very sensitive. So essentially your vagina is wrapped in erectile tissue. I call it the golden bracelet. It's wrapped in erectile tissue, which is why when it's engorged and you've got good blood flow, you're taking your nitric oxide boosters, you're eating your vegetables, you're getting manual massage, you're using your vibrators, you're engorging the tissue. When you get your vulval erection, all that tissue's plumped up so that when that penis goes inside you, it feels unbelievable and starts triggering orgasmic contractions. So G-spotting is very important. And then, of course, it's also really good to have a large vibrator of some kind, a magic wand style vibrator, because you want to engorge the mons and the outer labia and the perineal area, because stimulating all that, I mean, you can have orgasms from someone just squeezing the outer labia and stimulating them together. And it gives you the most incredible orgasms from that. So moving away from tip of the clit focus to just giving yourself an orgasm, really working that thing too. I'm spreading and activating all the neural pathways to my largest sex organ, my brain. That's what's going to give you that on-ramp to being a massively multi-orgasmic woman with the stimulation of the toys that carries over into partnered sex, making you more confident, more easily orgasmic, and you can always bring the toys with you into partnered sex. One of my favorite things is to put a vibrator on my clitoris while I'm being penetrated. And oh my God, that's so nice. I've got a couple of different toys that I love for that. Some are low profile, some are giant. And that can be really good too. That helps you cross the gasm chasm.
I've often heard you talk about the NOS one.
Yeah, the NOS.
Oh, NOS. Okay, thank you.
I don't know if I've got that one here in my bag of tricks.
Oh, I love the bag of tricks there.
I know. I've got all kinds of things. I've got a crazy little, this is a penile extender. I help a lot of men reverse atrophy of aging.
It's like kinky show and tell. I love it.
It's not even.
And
this is the Womanizer Duo. I was telling you about it. Stimulates your clitoris while it vibrates your G-spot.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, intense pleasure from that thing. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
And what's the deal with butt plugs?
Butt plugs. Yeah. There's a lot of really nice butt plugs. Here's the NOS, and I'll show you a really good butt plug. So this is the NOS, NOS, and this is my favorite couples toy for partner play, because it is essentially a cock ring that goes down on the base of his penis. And so there's 2 basic ways you can have intercourse stroking. One, and Jill, fantastic for going all the way with me on this. You're doing a fantastic job. I love the space you're holding for your women to hear all of these things.
Let's do it. I mean, let's bring it all
Yes.
to the table because no one's talking about it.
And it's so perfectly normal and natural. There's no
Absolutely.
reason why you wouldn't want to be taking advantage. I mean, I use an oral irrigator. I use an electric toothbrush. I use a regular toothbrush. I'm going to use sex toys too. I'm not going to not use the latest
Right.
gadgets for pleasure. These are pleasure.
100%.
It's good for you.
Yep.
So the nose is great because it, when you make love, especially when you become more confident, and instead of having your partner doing all the stroking, you're taking control and you're learning how to use their penis for your pleasure and giving you the strokes and stimulation you need, finding your way to the kind of strokes and stimulation you need with intercourse is like a next natural evolution of your sexuality. Some women naturally go there. They're very used to riding cowgirl and doing all these things. And other women are like, I don't know, I've really pretty much just been missionary my whole life. And I'd like to try more. And so one of the things I like about these penis rings is that if you're on top of him and you're missionary, but you're on top and you're facing him, he can be kissing you, telling you how beautiful you are, playing with your breasts and nipples, holding on to you, helping move you with rhythm. You can decide the rhythm that feels good to you. And what you need to do is just tune into your body's wisdom. She knows what she wants and she will tell you. Just listen to her. And over time, you'll get really good at communicating with your own yoni. And what you can do is you can slide up and down, but you can also go all the way down and grind. And the grind doesn't have to be hard. It can be just moving deeply so that he's deeply inside you while you're making contact with your clitoris on the vibrator at the base of the shaft of his penis. And I like to make out while I'm doing that. That's also really sexy because your mouth and your breasts and nipples are directly connected to your clitoral structure via your nervous system. So you're going to engorge and bring blood flow from the inside out. It's called an everted clitoral erection. When you're also stimulating with mouth, lips, tongue, breasts, nipples, that's expanding your clitoral structure. So you're feeling more pleasure. So the nose is my number one favorite partnered toy.
Great.
And then for the buns, I like this product called the Plex, P-L-E-X, from Hot Octopus. And this is a remote controlled vibrator that can be inserted into your anus or your partner's for prostate massage. And I don't have it right here, but it comes with a wristwatch, a little wristwatch with a remote control on it. So you can start slow and turn it up. It has a flared base, and it's very nice for delivering internal stimulation to, and many women are really wired for anal pleasure in addition to vaginal and clitoral pleasure. And they love the extra stimulation of a toy inside them, especially a vibrating toy. And our male body partners right now, according to, I have something called the Sex Life Bucket List. And by the way, all the links to all of these products are on the Sex Life Bucket List. If you go to sexlifebucketlist.com, you can download a PDF that I've created that has 48 erotic play dates of fun ideas for things to do in the bedroom, including all 20 kinds of orgasms, all kinds of fun things, and exploring your back door. And for men, I asked them, okay, well, what were your top things you wanted to do? It's kind of like you make this little bucket list from the 48. And I ask guys all the time, well, what was on the top of your list? And their number one thing is anything she wants to do.
Right.
And their number two is I'd like to explore my prostate. And their number three is I'd like to become a multi-orgasmic man. And 96% of women who follow me say, I would like to support my man in becoming multi-orgasmic. I would like them to learn the me breath technique we teach, and then have it during lovemaking support them in becoming multi-orgasmic, learning how to connect their heart to their penis and pull the energy up into their body and send the energy through the sexual orgasmic pleasure through their body instead of out their penis in an ejaculation. I'd like them to learn how to separate ejaculation and orgasm, because those are
Mm,
just two separate parts of our
right.
system. They're not
Right.
connected. They just conflated them in their mind that, oh, if I have an orgasm, I have to ejaculate. And then sex is over for her. So
Right.
once she starts really enjoying intercourse and it feels so good, she wants it to go a long time. So these are just some interesting little
Yeah,
tidbits that go with
absolutely.
the buns.
Is there an optimal amount of times women should be either having intercourse, or if they're not in a relationship, in how many times they should self-pleasure? A week, a month?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that try and set the goal of maybe 2 times a week that you're either self-pleasuring or having intercourse, because 2 or more is going to allow your body to hold some of that engorgement and expand the neural pathways to your mind-body connection of pleasure.
Mhm.
Less frequency, it's going to just take longer. More frequency, and it's going to build on itself, and you're going to find more, and your pleasure is going to really start accelerating. So, I don't like to prescribe anything for anyone, like you should do this or you have to do this, but a minimum of 2 times a week will really kickstart your libido. And when you start to have good sex, you want more sex. And when you
Right.
want more sex, you have more sex. And when you have more sex, it gets better. And it's just a self-fulfilling, positive, virtuous
Yep. Yep.
cycle when you do that.
Right. Well, let's talk about these sexual regenerative therapies that are
Right.
available to women, because these are super cool. And I've actually done some of them myself and can
Right.
attest to them. And I have suggested them to my female clients as well.
Good.
But tell us, where do you want to start with that?
There's 4 things. There's 4 quadrants. There's
Okay.
4 quadrants to vaginal rejuvenation, and there's 4 things I recommend. And I also like to say that one of the things I like to do is I like to say there's the cheap, your basic guerrilla, got to do it type of things that'll really get you a long way. And then there's things that will fix specific problems, and there's things that will even make things better and accelerate them. And that's how I kind of think about it. So the 4
Okay.
quadrants of female issues are: number 1, incontinence, urge and stress incontinence. And that happens to almost all of us. And I
Yep.
refuse to be a woman who has to wear a friggin' diaper. I don't want to wear a mini pad
Agree.
in my pants. So I don't want to pee my pants. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So I'm going to reverse the natural atrophy of aging. I'm going to have lots of orgasms to keep everything good. I'm going to use regenerative treatments to reverse incontinence, because the number one reason that women go into homes instead of staying in their home till the day they die is incontinence. Nobody wants to change their diapers. They start wetting the bed, etc.
Mm,
So if you can keep your incontinence at bay, you can die in your own home. I mean,
very
that's
good
what I
point.
want to do, Jill. I want to
Mhm.
die in my own home. I don't want to have somebody changing my diapers.
No, it's real. It's a good point.
Totally real. So incontinence is 1 quadrant. The second quadrant is atrophy of the clitoral and erectile tissue structures and the tissue itself. And what that does is it diminishes orgasmic response. When you start doing vaginal rejuvenation, you're going to come more easily and better than you
Mhm.
have for a long time. And you're going to be like, oh my God, I didn't even know how much I'd lost. I forgot how good my
Mhm.
orgasms used to feel. So that's
Mhm.
the second thing. The third thing is the lubrication, the intravaginal lubrication, and the vaginal mucosal lining friability that comes from estrogen loss. The estrogen, not the lubrication,
Yeah.
the vaginal friability, the thinning of the tissue that creates painful sex, especially around the introital sphincter, or the opening to the vagina. That's where we get too much friction, because guys think
Yep.
we're like an inside out penis instead of a pocket. So learning the sex techniques helps, the make and whoopee, and also estrogen replacement helps, as does good lubricants, but also rejuvenation. So, I mean, I'm so wet right now. I don't need lube, Jill. I cannot, and I'm 61. I cannot tell you how happy I am. And I'll tell you what did it. And then the 4th quadrant. So we did incontinence, we did atrophy and loss of sensation, we did loss of lubrication and vaginal friability. And then the 4th one is saggy balls. It's when our vulva starts sagging, the outer labia
Yeah.
starts sagging,
Right.
and it looks like old man scrotum. And
Yep.
I want a pretty vulva,
Yep.
and I want a lush, rich, plump, juicy, lubricated, responsive, orgasmic beautiful vulva.
Mhm.
So I just had a facelift. I use expensive creams. I'm constantly working on my skin. I work out at the gym. Why wouldn't I want a beautiful vulva too? Right? I want everything to be pretty. So
Right.
the aesthetic piece of things is important to me.
Absolutely.
So those are the 4 quadrants. And here are the 4 things. This is my stack.
Okay.
Take a nitric oxide supplement, for God's sake. It's the
Yep.
simplest thing you can do. 2 capsules at night. It works better because you refill your nitric oxide stores at night. It's a system where it's stored in there. So that's number 1. Number 2 is I like that you have 2 options. There's people who are like, I just want to fix it immediately. I want it done for me. I don't want to screw around with it. I don't need to do it at home. I'm busy. I want to get up and go to work. I'm done. Those are the women who like to go get FemiWave treatments. I don't know if you've had them yet. Have you had FemiWave?
Is FemiWave also the laser therapy?
No,
Like
it's
Vivive?
not. It's not. And I don't like that. I don't like the Vive at all. I don't like CO2 lasers. I don't like RF devices. They're too invasive. They're too
Okay.
damaging. They make your vagina weep, and they're overkill for most women. So those are a last resort. FemiWave is like
Hmm.
Gainswave. It's the acoustic wave.
Ah, okay.
I will hook you up. So you can have them because you're a sexual biohacker, and you need to have these things so you can experience them yourself. FemiWave is done outside the body, and it's the
Mhm.
one that does the plumping of the labia, in addition to reconstituting the clitoral structures and all the atrophy. It also does, it's the thing that gave me like the super wet lubrication, unbelievable dripping wet lubrication. I friggin' love it. I'm so happy right now. It's crazy. I never thought I'd be so excited about being lubricated. But when you're not, you miss it. And so it does, and it really helps with incontinence. I was getting a lot of what they call keyhole. My girlfriend calls it keyhole incontinence, where you get out of the car, you drive into your driveway, and you get out of the car and you put your key in the lock, and you're going to pee your pants. You got to pee
Mhm.
so bad. And then you practically pee your pants on the way to the toilet. I hate that feeling.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yep.
it's like, yeah, I got to get my shoes off and run across my carpet and get to the bathroom. I hate that. So
Yep.
FemiWave gets rid of that too, which I love.
Hmm.
So FemiWave is like, does all 4 quadrants: lubrication, vaginal laxity. It tightens and tones. It gets rid of incontinence. I mean, it's just so nice, and
So
it makes you come better.
is the FemiWave a one-time thing, or is it a series? Because I know in Gainswave, men have to do it for several several appointments, sometimes for 3 or 6 months, and then there's like maintenance or routine, on an annual basis.
Yes, it's a 6 treatment series. And
Okay.
what I like about that is it's like making a stew. You don't want to blast the crap out of yourself. And that's what those CO2s and RF devices do. They just blast the crap out of you. I don't like that level of hormesis, which is the damage will make you stronger. Great, but don't kill me to do it. I
Mhm.
like the FemiWave because it's slow and low and go, and it just slowly gives your time. It does small micro damage to the tissue. It regenerates nerve tissue. It rebuilds capillary action. It reconstitutes the physical body tissue of the clitoris, the urethra, everything. And it does it slowly so that you're rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding. It stacks on slowly. It's just like PRP, which I'm going to talk about in a
Mhm.
minute, where it's not like you do one thing and it reverses 25 years of aging.
Right,
You
right.
got to do it. I like slow things better than fast things, but it's the place, it's where you go and they do it for you.
Mhm.
So
Right.
I love that. Now, a lighter weight at home device, you're not going to get the same therapeutics with a VFit Gold, the vagina device. It's at
Mhm.
vaginadevice.com, but you can do it yourself. And some women are just like, I'm DIY. I want the tool. I'll go slow, even slower. I don't mind if it takes longer. And I use my VFit as a pre-intercourse. If I know I'm going to have a date with my husband later this evening, and we usually make love, like we'll have a light dinner and make love. We have love making dates. We schedule them, so we do it. I will usually use the VFit that morning, and it will engorge up inside my vagina so that
Mm.
intercourse feels really good before we have sex, which I love. But what this device does, and I'll hold it up here and turn it on for you for your YouTube viewers, which will be nice. This vagina device does three things. It uses red light therapy. So this is intravaginal. It's not going to fix the clitoral atrophy.
Right. Right.
It's not going to plump up your labia, but it's going to help with incontinence, lubrication, and vaginal laxity, the thinning of the tissue that makes you feel like your vagina is open too much. Your vagina gets open, your husband's penis shrinks, and then you can't get the grip you used to for orgasmic intensity either. So this uses red light therapy, photobiomodulation to remodel the vaginal mucosal lining. It's really good. Women have told me I had an odor. It wasn't bacterial vaginosis. It wasn't anything. I didn't pass any tests for any problems, but I didn't like the way I smelled. And then I got this vagina device, and the red light apparently remodels the glycogen and can remove some odor. And so for those women who are like, damn, I don't know why I can't get this thing to smell as good as I'd like it to, this might be your solution. So the red light thickens up the tissue and supports mitochondrial growth of the tissue, reversing atrophy. It engorges with the warmth. It helps with Kegel toning with the warmth because it's nice and warm. And it also has vibration, which helps with Kegel toning. And so it's basically laxity, lubrication, incontinence, thinning tissue up inside the vagina. So if everything you want is up inside the vagina and you want to do it yourself, the vagina device might be the answer for you. And it feels fantastic. I get up in the morning and I put on my red light capillus cap. I put my V-Fit in. My husband makes me a latte. I check my email. I check the news. I scroll my Instagram and do an Instagram post. And it's a 10-minute thing, the hat and the vagina device. And I love
I'm
red
chuckling.
light.
I'm chuckling because I just got my V-Fit. I haven't used it yet. I just got it last week. And I also wear the Laser Cap HD Plus for my hair growth. And I sit in front of my EMR Tech red light therapy box. And so I said to my daughter, who was just here for 2.5 weeks from Denver, and I said, Emmy, I could literally have all three devices going at one time and just red light therapy my entire body inside and out. She's like, oh my God, Mom.
That's what I do.
But you're being efficient. I agree.
Totally.
You have to make the commitment. You've got to make the time, and you want to, we're women, so we're always efficient.
I love it. And I'm having my latte. It's funny. I was at the A4M longevity conference. If you haven't gone, have you gone to that yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. Next year, go. It's so good. And they have all the wonderful devices out on the show floor and everything. And one of the things they have is this entire bed. It's like a tanning bed, but it's red light. And then it has a thing that comes down over you and does your face and your neck and your décolletage and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, I need that. That's what I really need. I've already got an infrared sauna. I've got a whole body vibration machine. I've got all the toys, the hats and the, now I want
But I love the V-Fit also because it's affordable, right?
Yes.
It's because the FemiWave, I am guessing that it's expensive and it's a big financial commitment. Not everybody wants to start there. So this would be a great place to start at home.
Exactly. So you're talking about $400 worth versus $1,500.
Yep.
But $1,500 for 6 treatments is also reasonable.
It's not that bad. I agree.
And it's going to get you further, but it depends on where you are. You might be at the V-Fit range, or you might want both, or you might want one, or you might want the other. This is your choice. So your nitric oxide, your V-Fit, your FemiWave, and then if you want frosting on the cake, your PRP, your O shot or orgasm shot. And I've had 7 of them. I'm constantly reversing atrophy and increasing the meatiness of my clitoral structure. And one of my best friends is a PRP doctor, Dr. Robin Benson. If you haven't had her on your show, she'd be great on your show. She has a podcast too. You guys can swap. Let me know if you want an introduction. And she does my O shots, and it is like this goddess ceremony. She's got this divine goddess music, and she's an artist. And one of the things I like about PRP is that I had a tear in my introital sphincter. I don't know what it was from, because I had to have a cesarean, so it wasn't from labor, but a lot of women have episiotomies. They have tears in their sphincter muscle from birth, etc. Or they have horseback riding accidents. They've had labial damage. They've had clitoral damage. Lots of stuff happens to us in our vulva. And one of
Right.
the things I like about PRP is that it doesn't just reverse the atrophy of the spongy tissue. It also can be injected specifically into the G area and the urethral area for incontinence. She fixed that tear. That tear does not hurt me anymore.
Mm.
It is completely healed. So I have a nice meaty clitoral body. I have a beautiful sphincter that doesn't ever give me any pain anymore. So for women that have owies, PRP is a really nice thing. And then just because I know we take care of our husbands and male-bodied partners, there's Gainswave, the vacuum
Mhm.
erection device penis pump, and which I call the Whopper, and there's PRP for men called the P shot or Priapus shot. And
Right.
for I have 2 ebooks. I've got vaginalrestorationbook.com for all of the things I've talked about in what order and how it works with
Mhm.
videos and all kinds of things. I even take you into my procedures and show you what they are like.
Oh, that's great.
And then I have pumpingguide.com for our male body partners. If you want to understand the PRP, the Gainswave, the penis pump, you want your guy pumping. As a matter of fact, I call it hashtag self-care down there. When my husband's pumping and I'm using my V-Fit, we're both reversing atrophy and keeping our genitals in good working order with lots of blood carrying capacity. And so if a guy is starting, and guys don't realize that they're getting less and less firm as they age and their
Mhm.
penises are shrinking. And this is how you basically do bodybuilding for your penis itself. You can keep it getting bigger and more blood carrying capacity and firmer with literally just with the Whopper. And then you can add on Gainswave, you can add on P shots, and of course get him on nitric oxide too,
Yeah.
because if he's taking Viagra, many men now get down to a regular dose of Viagra is 60 milligrams. That's the standard dose, or Cialis, Levitra, et cetera.
Mhm.
But most of my guys have been able to wean themselves off of it by topping up their nitric oxide stores and then getting the Gainswaves and doing the vacuum erection device, the penis pump. And I have them, as they build up their nitric oxide stores, I have them slowly go down in milligrams, like cut the Viagra,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then take a part of it just sublingually, don't swallow it, take it under the tongue just before sex. And so they can take a lot less and they don't have the stuffy nose and the flushing and the
Right.
headache later. So we can fix our guys as we go as well, so that you all have fantastic genitals.
And that's a really important point, Susan, is that both people in the relationship have to be on board with the self-care component.
Yeah.
Right? Because, if one person is soaring ahead sexually and the other one is lagging behind, well, that's not going to work either. So I love that you brought that up. I also want to say I had the O shot on my clitoris twice and it did nothing for me. So I find it
Yeah.
interesting you had yours 7 times. So
Yeah.
is in your experience and with other women that maybe you've consulted with,
Yeah.
do you find you need to have more?
Yeah. So thank you for
Mm.
mentioning that, Jill. I usually mention that, and that is that when you're reversing clitoral atrophy, I'd recommend you go get another one. And that's because when you're reversing clitoral atrophy, a lot of times you're so far gone that the first one, you're like, I didn't notice anything. So my girlfriend was
Right.
like, it's going to work, babe. I want to give you another one. And when I had the second one, I was like, oh, okay. I was just so atrophied that I needed 2. And then I was like, what if I had 3? And I'm like, oh, whoa, this is great. And so now I have one just about every year. I have one when I
Mm.
go in and do different things, because what I've been doing, I lost half my hair to COVID. I was so
Mm.
thin, you could see right through to my scalp. And I'd already always been follicularly challenged because I had an undiagnosed gluten allergy that ruined my microbiome and ruined my vitamin absorption. So I wasn't making enough hair. And
Mhm.
when I started doing PRP, what I found is that I did this before I got COVID, and my hair was as thick as when I was in my 30s. Then I got COVID and lost half of it. And I thought,
Mm.
all right, well, I'm not going to be depressed about this. I'm just going to do it again, because if I did it once, I can do it again. If PRP worked once, I can do it again. I just had a viral shedding, which means it's not anything problematic. I can reverse this. So what I have found with PRP is that when you're doing a deep remediation, not a maintenance, you know, you can move to maintenance,
Right.
but you got to start with remediation. I
Mhm.
think about all of these procedures in two buckets. I think about it as sexual regenerative remediation. And
Mhm.
then you get remediated, and then you can move into biohacking, which is taking yourself from where
Yep.
you are higher, but you got to get back to what you lost. So I do PRP 3 times, 90 days apart, and then I wait for a year. And that's when I see
Mm.
within
Okay.
the first year of doing it 3 times, 90 days apart, you will, by the end of that year, you'll be like, oh my God. And another quarter after that, you'll be like, wow, I am so glad I did that. But you got to have faith that PRP, platelet rich plasma injections, they take time to build new tissue. Your body is literally building new tissue. I just had PRP in my elbows. I had from lifting weights that I was lifting weights, and I love lifting heavy. And I didn't recruit my muscles. I used my joints, and I kind of messed up the tendon that goes into the elbow. So I went to Paul Handelman. He does orthopedic PRP, which is a 16-time concentration of PRP. When you get an O shot or a P shot, it's just right from one vial. He
Mhm.
took 16 vials and spun it down into a little tiny needle and stuck that in the joint and tendon area, and kind of boom, 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 damaged, and stuck it in there. And now I can feel all that tissue knitting and regrowing and coming back. So I can't lift anything for a while because I've got to let the tissue build. I don't want to tear what's being rebuilt. That's what PRP is doing. It's creating new scaffolding, and then the tissue within the scaffolding. That's why you need to take a lot of collagen, vitamin C, zinc, copper, silica in combination when you're doing these restorative practices, because all of your soft tissue is collagen based. So that's what you need the collagen for. And the
Right.
5 types of collagen, not just the one and the
Right.
2, but the 5 types of collagen. I like
Right.
the organics, ORGANIXX brand of collagen, because it's the 5 types of collagen and it's organic. So I hope all that helps people, because
Wow,
you know, it's a
Susan.
process.
Yeah, you are just a wealth of knowledge, not
Good.
just with sex, but just in terms of
Health.
living your best life and being healthy, right? And you don't look 61, so
Good.
kudos on that. You look wonderful. Um, so I usually end with, what are 3 things a woman can do right now at home to help start this process for her to rejuvenate her sex life? But you have given us so many things, so I don't even feel the need to do that. One last question before we
Yeah.
end. Do you work privately with clients?
What I do, Jill, is I just answer everybody's questions. So you can, if you opted into any of the things that I've given you as free gifts today, you'll
Mhm.
be on my email newsletter. And I send out all this information and these sex tips and the products I like and all kinds of things. And you can reply to any email you get from me, and it actually comes directly to me.
Oh, nice.
You can also go on Instagram. I'm at Susan Bratton, and you can slide it when I'm not an Instagram Jill. You can slide into my Instagram DMs and ask me a question there. I prefer you email me. It's
Okay.
easier for me to respond on my computer than my phone. And I like you to give me as much background as you possibly can, so that I can get a sense of who you are, what you've been doing, how is your health, you know, what's the problem, what traumas have you had, where are you stuck, whatever it might be. And then I just reply. And a lot of times what I do, and I think this is I've been blessed that people trust me, because they've been emailing me so many years now. And that's what's helped me learn how to help people so well. And I just do that for free, because it makes me better. And then a
Mhm.
lot of times I'll use a person's story, and I'll take all the personally identifiable information out of it. And then I send the question and my answer out to my newsletter. So
Mm.
what people like about my newsletter is they're hearing the stories of people all the time and my advice, and then how it worked for them. I send back the stories about, okay, I tried it and here's how it worked. So that's how I handle it. So no, I don't do any one-on-one, but I do answer everybody's email.
Wonderful. That's excellent. I have jotted down all of those links and
Thank you.
I will put all of that in my show notes and any other information I can find on you. And I will also put on your Instagram profile how people can follow you. I love following you. I love all of your podcasts that you've been on. And
Thank you.
I know that my listeners are going to absolutely enjoy and flip over this, and they're all going to be, chomping at the bit to get started on this new sex journey for themselves. You've definitely shed light on a few new things that I'm going to try for myself. And it was just such a pleasure to meet with you and speak with you. And like I said, I am a huge fan of yours. And thank you so much for joining us today on the Health Trip podcast.
Thank you so much. You are a joy, and I appreciate your kindness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Lifestyle changes can be hard and overwhelming to make. By building your support team of functional medicine doctors, therapists, and health coaches, you can reach your optimal health goals. Be sure to check out my other podcasts. Until we meet again, stay healthy.